Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror mystery movie called Imaginary. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens as a young woman named Jessica is caught up in one of her recurring nightmares. She is being trapped in her childhood home and being stalked by a creature posing as her father. The creature then takes the form of a hideous spider and is about to attack when suddenly Jessica wakes up in her bed. She is in her apartment safely next to her husband, Max. Hearing his wife gasp in horror, Max quickly awakens and asks if she had yet another nightmare.
I'm tired of this, babe.
It is obvious that Jessica has been suffering from erratic sleep for quite a long time now. We also get to know that their family is soon moving to a new home. Max concludes that these nightmares are a result of a variety of problems, like shifting to a new place and dealing with his ex-wife. Furthermore, he suggests that they should immediately move into their new home so that at least one problem will be over.
Can't do anything about my bitch of an ex-wife, though.
Jessica initially isn't keen on the idea, but eventually agrees and starts packing their bags. A few hours later, the couple, along with their 2 daughters, arrive in front of the property that they will now call home. It is revealed that this is the same house where Jessica grew up with her family. She had to leave after an incident with her father, Ben, as a child. He was a good man by all accounts, but one day, out of the blue, he snapped and lost his mind. Ben attacked his daughter, whom he loved more than his life, and even gave little Jessica scars on her arms. He was institutionalized after that event, and Jessica was sent away to live with her grandparents. And now, moving back into this house, her nightmares are sure to stop. Back in the present, we get a peek into the personal dynamics of her own family. Jessica is happily married and is a stepmother to 2 beautiful girls, Taylor and Alice. The younger, Alice, has taken well to her father's second marriage, but the elder daughter, Taylor, still remains standoffish. This doesn't stop Jessica from trying her best to become a welcoming mother to both of them. She even shows her younger stepdaughter around their new home. That afternoon, Jessica quickly gets back to her work. She is a successful writer and an illustrator. She authored the award-winning children's book series Molly Millipede and Simon the Spider. She is extremely stressed with a deadline for her new book. When Alice enters the room, the kid invites stepmom to take a break from work and play with her. Extremely pleased by this offer, Jessica immediately agrees, suggesting they should play hide and seek. However, as they are playing, Jessica gets a call from her editor and steps out of the house to talk. Alice, on the other hand, keeps searching for her stepmom and eventually ends up in the basement. The little kid looks around the dimly lit space and finds a teddy behind some wooden boxes. It looks like a standard stuffed toy, but it appears as if the teddy bear can psychically communicate with Alice. In fact, it introduces itself as Chauncey, the bear, and says it is feeling hungry. The kid then takes the teddy bear upstairs to her room. Meanwhile, Taylor is busy taking selfies in her room when she sees something really creepy. In the corner of one of her photos, a strange old woman can be seen looking straight into her room. Taylor immediately goes outside to check who the old woman is, but cannot find any trace of her. She is instead greeted by Liam, a young boy from the neighborhood. The 2 teenagers immediately hit it off, and Liam invites her to hang out. Suddenly, Jessica, who is talking to her editor nearby, steps in to have a chat with the youngsters. Taylor, however, is irritated by her stepmom trying to be overly friendly and storms up to her room. The following day, Jessica goes back to her work, feeling reinvigorated with new ideas. Alice soon arrives carrying Chauncey and says the 2 of them are playing scavenger hunt. The first objective of the hunt is finding things that make Alice happy. She requests her stepmom to make something cheerful for her, and the latter obliges. Jessica paints a smiley face on a blue rubber ball and gives it to the delighted kid. Kids are stupid and so easily pleased. However, that night, while preparing to go to bed, Jessica hears a thudding noise from the basement. She goes in to check it out and comes across the same rubber ball that she had earlier given to Alice. She is slightly creeped out as the smiley face is turned into a frown. However, her attention is diverted to a nearby box that has been labeled Jessica 5. It contains a collection of paintings that Jessica did as a 5-year-old kid. She casually skims through them and sees a rather vivid drawing of a door. The whole picture seems trippy, and underneath there is a note that says, "Never, ever." Nonetheless, Jessica leaves the drawing in the basement and heads upstairs to check on Alice. She hears the kid having a tea party with her teddy bear and begins to record it to show it to her husband later on. Jessica thinks the whole scenario is extremely cute cute, until she hears the voice of a woman in the room. She immediately opens the door, only for a strange woman to lunge at her. Hearing the commotion, Taylor arrives at the spot and pulls the woman off of Jessica. It is then revealed that the intruder is none other than Max's mentally deranged ex-wife, Samantha. She had broken into the house to meet her kids, but got violent when she noticed Jessica. The police soon arrive and take Samantha back to her mental institution.
You're not allowed to see your kids, you crazy animal.
The next afternoon, Max is headed out of town for a show with his band and his dumbass hat. This guy fucks. His family bids him goodbye and is about to go back inside when an elderly lady approaches Jessica. She introduces herself as Gloria and reveals she used to be Jessica's babysitter when the latter was just a kid. Jessica, on the other hand, barely remembers her time in the house before her mother passed away. A few hours later, Jessica slips out of the house to visit her father, Ben, who is currently admitted in a nursing home. It turns out that he has lost much of his sanity after the incident decades ago. Jessica, however, still visits him, hoping that someday he will get his memories back. She shows him a camcorder that has a video of them playing and several other memories from the good old days. Suddenly, Ben grabs his daughter and begins to hysterically repeat the same phrase, "Get away from CB. Chauncey Bear?" Back at the home, Taylor uses the opportunity to invite Liam over to their house. Alice isn't too fond of the stranger and irritatedly wishes that Chauncey would eat him up. Nonetheless, Liam tries to convince Taylor to raid her father's liquor stash. She forbids him from doing so, but the overly enthusiastic boy picks up a whiskey bottle anyway. Liam is so clumsy that he drops the bottle only seconds later, making a mess on the floor. She orders him to get a towel from upstairs, while she goes to clean the shards of glass. As Liam is searching for some extra towels, he sees something really strange. Someone seems to have put Chauncey under a bed sheet and placed it in the middle of the corridor. Things get even more trippy when the teddy bear begins to slowly drag itself towards Liam. Suddenly, the toy lunges at the teenager, transforming itself into a giant monster in the process. Liam screams in horror, but he's quickly brought back to his senses by Jessica. Turns out she arrived a few minutes ago and confronts her daughter as well as her male friend. An embarrassed Liam goes back to his home without telling anyone about what he saw, or that he dropped the liquor bottle, or that he shit his pants. A few days later, Jessica returns to her home office, but finds that someone has cut the heads off her drawings. Jessica knows that Alice hasn't been getting all the attention she needs, so she concludes that it was the little girl who did this, as a means to pour out her pent-up frustration. Jessica then goes into her stepdaughter's room and tries to have a chat with the kid. She opens up about her own difficult upbringing and how she has a strained relationship with her father. Suddenly, she hears Alice playing outside and checks under the bedsheet. Unembarrassed, Jessica realizes that she's been talking to Chauncey, the teddy bear, all this time. Following this, Jessica casually looks around the room and finds the scavenger hunt list on a nearby desk. The list starts off innocently, but gradually turns more and more sadistic. The final 3 challenges contain sadistic things, like do something that scares you, do something that will get you in trouble, and finally, do something that hurts. Creeped out, Jessica goes to the window to call Alice, only to see a horrifying sight. The kid is outside playing with a piece of wood that seems to be ripped from a nearby fence. Alice is getting ready to impale her palm on a rusty nail that is sticking out of one end of the wood. Jessica realizes that the kid is about to perform the last task on the list. She quickly heads outside and saves her stepdaughter before Alice can hurt herself. A few days later, Jessica calls a child psychologist, Dr. Soto, to come and speak to Alice. The psychologist sets up a camera to record the session and begins to have a conversation with the little kid. She asks Alice about her imaginary friend, and the latter says his name is Chauncey. Dr. Soto urges her to talk to Chauncey about removing the risky things in the scavenger hunt list. Eventually, the kid agrees to do so and starts talking to the teddy bear about what happened a few days ago. The doctor watches on as Alice has a full-on conversation, but thinks that the little kid is talking both for herself as well as for her imaginary friend. However, Chauncey starts to get more aggressive, calling Jessica fake mommy and a bad person. Alice defends her stepmom and eventually says she doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. She leaves the room sobbing uncontrollably and runs upstairs to her room. As the session ended abruptly, Jessica asks the doctor about what just happened. Soto tells her that Alice has made an imaginary friend, one who doesn't exist in real life. Now that'll be $300. Jessica interrupts and says that her stepdaughter is actually talking to a real object, her teddy bear, and not a non-existent thing. The doctor, now realizing the root of the problem, says there is no teddy bear. To prove her point, Soto even shows the video recording of the session. To Jessica's utter horror, there is no teddy bear in the video, and Alice is talking to herself. Jessica then calls her elder stepdaughter and asks if she has seen Alice's teddy bear, but Taylor has no idea what she is talking about and confirms that there is in fact no teddy bear. It is now obvious that only Jessica and Alice can see Chauncey. Dr. Soto also shows footage of a similar case where a boy named Louis also had an imaginary friend. It put the boy through the same thing that Chauncey's currently putting Alice through. Right towards the end of the video, Jessica hears Louis say "never ever" a few times. These are the same words that were written underneath the drawing of a door that Jessica had made when she was 5. Things get even more complicated when moments after the doctor has left, Alice disappears from her room. Taylor, who blames Jessica for this mess, goes outside to look for her sister. She runs into their oddball elder neighbor Gloria, who says she knows where Alice currently is. She invites the teenager into her home and instead begins to explain what happened to Jessica as a child. According to her, Jessica also had an imaginary friend as a child, whose name was also Chauncey. Imaginary friends are spirits who tether to the young and can become sinister if abandoned. Jessica had forsaken Chauncey as a kid, and now the spirit has turned evil. It wants to take revenge by taking Alice to a different realm, named the Never Ever. Soon afterwards, Gloria and Taylor head back to the latter's house and meet Jessica. Turns out the stepmom has figured out about the Never Ever after going through her old drawings from the basement. Now that they know what's happening, the trio of Jessica, Taylor, and Gloria head to the basement. They too play the scavenger hunt and complete the 3 tasks mentioned in the list. Suddenly, a gleaming door opens in the corner of the basement, and the 3 ladies enter inside. They finally arrive at the place called the Never Ever, a different dimension controlled by the imaginations of the children who inhabit it. As they search for Alice, the entity, which calls itself Chauncey, shows up in his monster bear form and tears Gloria apart. The mother-daughter duo manages to run away from the spot and fortunately stumbles into a room which looks like the family's old apartment in the city. Alice is dressed like a princess, surrounded by presents, and she even has Samantha there. Jessica, realizing that she needs to convince the kid that this Never Ever place is not real, hatches up a plan. She begins to smear paint all over the wall, something that Samantha never allowed her kids to do. Alice joins her stepmom in doing so, and a new door opens up. Taylor and Alice get out, while Chauncey chases Jessica in his monster form. Fortunately, Jessica stabs the beast in the eye and makes it through the door to the other end. But she is still in the Never Ever realm and is slowly cornered by the psychotic clones of her stepdaughters, as well as her father's clone. She is about to be overwhelmed when Taylor pops up on the spot with a baseball bat. She smacks one of the clones on the head and pulls her stepmom away. They finally make it back to the real world. However, their trouble is still not over, as Chauncey also peeks out to the real dimension.
Here's Chauncey!
It tries to drag Jessica back to the Never Ever, but thankfully, brave little Alice comes up with a permanent solution. She sees kerosene spilt nearby and quickly sets it on fire with the help of a nearby matchbox. Chauncey catches fire, which then spreads throughout the whole basement. Thankfully, Jessica and her stepdaughters make it out just in time, as their whole house is consumed by fire. The next day, Jessica, Taylor, and Alice try to check into a hotel, but they get spooked when they see a teddy bear peeking out from behind a chair. It turns out to belong to a little boy who is telling his mom about his imaginary friend, Rufus. The camera then pans to show that Rufus is exactly similar to Chauncey the bear. I'd say this is a setup for a sequel, but the chances of that happening are imaginary. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.